Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be playing some Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. We're going to be doing a bit of a tutorial flight today. We're just currently here, London Heathrow, gate 223, and we're flying today the Airbus A321. We're only going from London Heathrow to Dublin. So what we'll do before any flight is a walk around check. So it's ground power connected. We'll just check the strut and the nose gears. Remove the engine covers. Engines look okay, so we'll just move around the outside of the engine. Engine looks all good. We'll check our landing gear, so we'll check the tyres and the struts. Moving back, we'll just check our flaps, make sure our flaps are okay, make sure our ailerons are okay. On Airbus aircraft, these do droop. This is not a trait with most Boeing aircraft. I say most because some of the newer ones do have aileron droop. Check the elevator, it should be drooping as well. And we'll check our rudder. If we can look up to it, we can. Looks like that's all good. So make our way to the back of the aircraft now. Head to our tyres. Again, we'll just check the strut, make sure that's okay, which it is. We'll just check our gear. Let's find a click spot for it. Our tyres, they're all good. Move along the outside of the wing again, just make sure everything's okay here. Surprised there isn't a thing for the ailerons. It's all well, so just check our engine, make sure that's okay. Not much wind is, it's not windmilling that much, and looks like we're all good. What we'll do now is we'll remove the chocks, because for some reason you can't remove them in the aircraft, and we'll head up to our aircraft now. So there's a shortcut that you can press to enter your aircraft, or in my case what I'll do is we'll head over to the aircraft and we'll go to the door. Should be here. And we'll just click on the door to open it, and that should take us into the cockpit, or the flight deck, the correct term. Right, before we get started, I'm going to use GSX. This is a PC only app. However, if you are on Xbox, you can head over to your EFB here, which I'll just zoom in, and you can go to ground, and you can toggle jetway or toggle stairs. In my case, I'll be doing that. We'll just head over to here. Actually, before we even start, we need to get our flight plan. So I'm just going to go to this website for you, and I'll just open this so you can see Chrome's up here. So we're going to go to the top here, and we're going to search up, in fact we'll search in here, dispatch Simbrief. It should take you to this website here, Simbrief Dispatch. You click on that. Now, you may have to sign into and create a Navigraph account. That's okay. It's a free account to do so. If you want the current up-to-date AirRack, you do have to pay. It's only £7.99 a month. Or you can have the more outdated AirRack. It doesn't really matter if you're flying in the UK. What we'll do now is you create a new flight. And this is where the fun begins. So, airline, today we're flying as Aer Lingus. So, Aer Lingus' call sign is EIN. If you want to find this out, you just quickly go onto Google, you search up the airline you want to find, which for me is Aer Lingus. You then just quickly go onto the Wikipedia page, and it should tell you there. You want to use the ICAO code, which is EIN. So EIN. Wonderful. We'll leave the flight number blank. We're going from Echo Golf Lima Lima, which is Heathrow. Again, if you want to find out this, on Wikipedia, all you need to do is search up the airport you want to fly from, Heathrow Airport. Again, you want to use the ICAO code, which is this one here. It should give you Echo Golf Lima Lima. Or if you do want to search, you can just search here, and you can search in Heathrow, and it should tell you that, and you can select that from there. Our destination is Dublin. So again, if you will, I'll show you an example. So we'll search Dublin. And we want to use Dublin International in Dublin, Ireland, not this one here, not this one here. We want to use this one here. And we just select that. Wonderful. Departure time, current time is 2:50. So we'll set 30 minutes from now. That should give us enough time to push back. And our aircraft type is the A321neo. Now, you may not have a profile for this yet. So I can just go to here, we'll search iniBuilds profiles. So you need to search iniBuilds profiles. Third tab down should say Airbus Aircraft Simbrief profiles for Microsoft Flight Simulator. And you can just click on this. I say we'll click on this one here, and it will just take you to Simbrief. You press save airframe, and then that's there for you. I've already got it saved, and I mistakenly saved it twice, so yeah, I've got it saved twice here. So we'll use whichever. We're flying the A321LR, and our registration is EI Echo India LRG. If you want to have a look at this, you can just head back to the flight simulator. I'll just quickly show you. Turn off Chrome. We'll just head outside to the drone camera, and if you just come to the side of the aircraft, it should say Echo India Lima Romeo Golf. You can create a preset, so your controls can do drone camera, or you can head outside, walk around. So we're using Echo India Lima Romeo Golf. Wonderful. Cost index today, I think Aer Lingus use 13. I'll double check. There's a website called Cost Index. If you search up Cost Index database, you go to the top one here, which is Toga Projects. You, just open up this PDF file here, and you just head down to Aer Lingus, which will be so it's the second one down. You just click on it, and yeah, A321 cost index is 6. So yeah, we'll use cost index as 6 today. Okay, now we want to find out our flight number. How do we do this? Well, all you need to do is search up Aer Lingus LHR to Dublin. Here are all the flight numbers. So we want to use either the 3-digit ones. We want to avoid using these ones here because these are operated by British Airways. And we'll just go to the one which is closest to our local time, which there is actually 167, which is scheduled to depart in 20 minutes. We won't make that, but we will make it. We'll use 167 as our flight number. So we'll use EIN 167. If you want to be even more technical, go onto Flight Radar, search the actual flight number, EIN 167. It should be EI 167. And if you come down to it, it'll tell you the actual air traffic control call sign, which is 16 Tango. Which we can come down here to air traffic control call sign, Echo India November 16 Tango. Wonderful. Selections, so units will be kilograms, that's fine. Or if you want to use pounds, you can switch it over to pounds. I like to use kilos. For the non-iniBuilds aircraft, you want to use pounds, however. I'll get back to that in a second. Passengers, I like to keep this at auto. It looks like 09 right is in use. It will automatically select the runway that's in use, which is currently in use as well at Heathrow. As for Dublin's arrival, it wants us on 16, which, okay, quite interesting. We'll double check what Dublin's doing right now then. Let's see what Dublin's doing. If they're using 16, what runway they're using for arrivals. It does look like they're using 10 right for departures, 10 left for arrivals. This is a good way to check as well. And at Dublin, they use the runway configuration for Dublin is usually this. So departures will, if 28's in use, if they're departing west, the north runway will be used for departures, the south for arrivals. And if they're departing to the east, the south will be used for departures and the north for arrivals. So we can use 10 left as our arrival. And yes, select new sit-in stars. Fuel planning. For myself, what we'll do is we'll contingency 30 minutes, extra, come down to here, just add an extra 30 minutes on top of that. Especially if you're flying out of a busy airport like Heathrow. And it should give us an automatic route here. You can go through the routes which show up on this side. So we've got this one here, we've got this one here, and it does, sometimes it takes off a bit of time. And looks like that one's invalid. So that one's going to take us, that's 323 nautical miles. We've got this one here, which is 257. We've got this one via the north. Should never really would take, actually. We've got this route here again taking us more towards Manchester. And we got this route again taking us over Liverpool. So usually when you fly to Dublin, you would use the southern, you'd hook to the south of Wales. And we'll do that. We'll hug the south of Wales. I know it's a bit longer, but that's usually the top route is the most optimum route and the most accurate route. We'll just fix you just click fix, press yes. Head down, route finder, you can just skip that. Alternate airports, if you want a custom alternate. I've just got Shannon as mine. Actually, I'm going to change that to Belfast. So if you come right to the top, alternate, if you just get rid of that, you find the airport you want. So for me, that's Belfast, which is Echo Golf Alpha Alpha. Obviously, again, you can search and it just means that in the event I need to divert due to bad weather or just, low on fuel, Belfast is my shout. Looks like everything is all good to go. It also looks like it'll take us a bit of time, but we've done our flight planning. So we'll now generate the flight. We now have our flight plan to hand. So again, it's pretty nifty on this side because it gives you all the details. So flight number EIN 167, call sign Shamrock 16 Tango, Heathrow departure, arrivals into Dublin, alternate is Belfast Aldergrove, aircraft type is an A321neo, date, departure time, arrival time. Now this is your air time, this is your scheduled flight time based on this flight plan, and it's very accurate. Simbrief's flight time, so it's going to take us 56 minutes. Block time 1 hour 24, that's time from gate to gate. This is usually a little less accurate. Now you can use this, you can read the proper briefing, which is all of this, or you can mainly use this part, which you will. This makes it a lot easier, especially if you're new to flight simming, than opening a whole PDF and going through it the old-fashioned way, like I used to do. Although it does help, it gives you more information that way. And we've got 220 passengers, we've got a full load of passengers. Right, head back into the sim now. We're in our aircraft. What we need to do is if we head back to our EFB, we head down to the options menu. If you look here, you've got your Simbrief user ID. And what you want to do is you want to just type it in. So your user ID can be found, and you go to your profile. If you go through your profile, it will just tell you your user ID, your pilot ID. There. I'm going to have to blank all that out. No worries. Okay, so we've got our user ID there. And you want to use units, again, up to you. IRS align time, I keep this at real. If you want it at instant, you can. I'll show you in a second. But I like it on real. Link instruments, I like to link everything up. Realistically, that wouldn't be the case, but, it's a single person flying a two-person flight deck. Rudder controls tiller, if you do not have a rudder set, yes. Auto tiller disconnect, yes again. And on-screen keyboard, if you're on Xbox, you want that to be enabled. If not, or disabled, I think. One of the two. Essentially, when you type in your on-screen keyboard, if you were to go over to here, this would come up. And if not, you'd have to type it in yourself. I think disable the on-screen keyboard if you can on Xbox. So that way you can just type it in. Right, once you've got all that in, if you've got your Simbrief ID, all you got to do is go to Simbrief and just press that. There you go, everything's in. And I've completely realised that, no, it's still there. That's good. Just head over to so what we'll do now is we've got all this in. We're actually going to start up our aircraft. So you want to head to the overhead panel, which is here. This is the flow that we do, that you know usually airlines would do. So battery 1, you want to make sure you've actually got voltage to battery 1. There we go. We've got power. Battery 2 on. We've got power on both batteries. Switch over to external power if you've got that green light available, which you should. Right. We'll call GSX now. If you're on GSX again, if you're on Xbox, you would just connect the jetway. We'll reload Simbrief. It's telling me off GSX Pro is outdated, and we'll just operate. We'll request boarding. Sometimes you need to do it twice.
Boarding requested.
And we'll use Swissport. While that's doing that, we're going to do our flow. So cruise supply on, ground control on, CVR test hold. You're going to hear that beep. Ground control off. ADIRS, nav, and nav. I should do a little ding. That's okay. Come to the top here. Engine 1 fire test. You want to hear that beeping? That's good. AP fire test. Again, that's good. And engine 2 fire test. Wonderful. Now, you do not need to do all the tests, as it should work perfectly fine. However, in real life, you would do it this way. Head down to this panel here. If you notice as well, they have fire, hydraulic, fuel. Leave that as it is. We'll leave that as it is as well. Don't want to board crew. Not everyone's on board. We'll get the passengers on. Electronics. This is the electronic panel. Again, we'll leave that as it is. Air conditioning. That's fine. Head down to our lights now, which is well, we've got anti-ice, cabin pressure, and lights. So we'll move.
Hello, Captain. We are ready for pushback.
We'll move from left to right here. So strobe lights off, beacon light off, wing light off, nav and logo light 1 or 2 is up to you. Runway turn offs off, landing lights both on retracted, and nose light off. This should be blanked out. Seatbelt signs stay off, no smoking sign on. Emergency exit light to on. Moving on to the right hand side.
Completed. Bypass pin inserted.
Yeah, we'll just cargo smoke test. Again, wonderful. Okay, looks like it's still beeping. If it's still beeping, we'll just fix it. Yeah, there we go. And again, it's just everything all up here. That's probably because I pressed it twice. Everything looks good on this side as well, on the right hand side. Wonderful. So we'll head back to our main panel. And see how it says IR in a line 3 minutes. It'll take us 3 minutes. We'll grab our meta, so we'll head over to here and we'll update this on this side. Now, to read this, it's quite interesting. So, London Heathrow, that's the time it's been updated at, the 29th of November. The time is 2:50 auto. The winds are heading 150 at 11 knots. Visibility is 9999, which means, you know, it's beautiful. You can see far, no clouds. So temperature is 10 degrees, dew point is 02. QNH is 1024. That's the one you need to know, really, 1024. So you head over to here and you just type it in, 1024. If you are in America, you'll use altimeter, and it will say 3024 instead. Looks like our IRS is already aligned, which is wonderful. We'll head over to our McDo. This is your McDo, this is your computer, this is your best friend. We'll just clear everything. We'll press init. Wait for system response. Wonderful. Now if you've done this, you should just press init request, and it should put in a route for you. We'll head over to here. We'll head over to ground. And I've accidentally pulled this up. This happens to me sometimes. Let me just fix this. Yep. We'll go down to payload. That's what we want. Payload. Again, Simbrief button here. Just press that. 220 passengers, 5.5 tons of cargo, 7.1, tons of fuel. I'd recommend just pressing instant. If you want to simulate boarding, you can. I've got GSX doing the boarding for me. If you have a look out here, we've got jet bridge connected, and we've just got bags, they're being loaded. Okay, so so it's already been loaded, so this is what we need now. Planned, so we'll head down to here. We'll press this right arrow, which will take us to our init B page. We've got the init A and init B page. And what we need is our zero fuel weight. So if you notice, it says zero fuel weight slash, so ZFW slash ZFW CG. Zero fuel weight and zero fuel weight center of gravity. So, zero fuel weight, which is here, is 70.79. Now, that's why we're going to round up to 70.8. Now, we don't put anything in there. We're now going to put our center of gravity, which is zero fuel weight center of gravity, 30.2. So we're going to put a slash here to represent that slash in the middle. And we're going to type in 30.2. Wonderful. Block fuel, which will be underneath fuel weight 7180. Again, round it up to tons. We're going to have 7.18, which rounded up is 7.2. So we're going to have 7.2 tons of fuel. Now, we've got all that, so we've got our initialization done. We'll just grab our wind as well. So you just press wind request for climb, wind request for cruise, and wind request for descent, just to keep everything up to date. Go to this button here, flight plan. Now we're going to use this key here, so L1, we're going to press L1, we're going to press departure. Now, if we head back to Chrome, you will see here that we've got the CPT 5 Juliet. You see it? So 09 right here, and CPT 5 Juliet. So runway 09 right and CPT 5 Juliet. No transition, insert. We'll scroll down, make sure there's no discontinuities. There is, you see it there, big discontinuity. We're just going to press clear. I'm just going to clear it. That should fix everything up. Keep scrolling down, make sure there's no discontinuities, which there isn't. Echo India Delta Whiskey is our arrival, so Lima 6, right. Arrival. Now, even though I said 10 left, and we'll just double check on here, so you've got Vatry 3 Romeo, Echo India Delta Whiskey 10 left. So 10 left, ILS. We're going to head down to Vatry. So we notice you've got Vatry 2 Sierra, Vatry 3 Romeo, Vatry 3 Uniform, and Vatry 4 Lima. We're going to be using Vatry 3 Romeo. Make sure this matches. Transition. Now, this is where it gets a bit interesting. So if you head down to your actual flight plan, if you head down to it, it should give you a transition, which I think it's OSLEX. So we'll have a look through. In fact, there's no transition, yeah, so we're pressing no transition. VIA, that's it. OSLEX. If you notice, OSLEX was the last waypoint here. Now, I do have access to Navigraph charts, and I'll show you the charts in a second to show you what the route looks like on the charts. We'll just insert that. Again, make sure there's no discontinuities, which there isn't. We'll go over to here. We'll just press constraints here, and we'll press airport here. So we're now going to take you through the chart process now. So just going to open up Navigraph charts, and we're going to press, if you're using charts, just import your flight from Simbrief. If you are using this, you can download this on your phone as well. This is mainly for those who are on PC, but you can use it on if you're on Xbox as well. You just don't have the nifty little tracker, and this will just go through our route with more detail. So we're currently here at Terminal 2, and we're taking off 09 right, which it says here. We're then going to make a right hand turn towards the south, towards the west, so sharp right hand turn towards the waypoint CPT, also known as Compton. We'll make a right hand turn up to the north. We're going to just follow this route. This is our routing, and we can really just ignore this for the time being. However, once we get to Vatry, this is where it gets interesting. So we're flying into Vatry, we're going to make a left-hand turn, and then if you notice, we're going to do this big long loop, this big long almost circle around Oslex, if you notice, before a right-hand turn into it. So a nice semicircle into Oslex, and then it's just nothing here. I'll just fill in the gaps there, so I'll just add that in. The Oslex transition, no, the Oslex via, the Oslex transition will take us everywhere we need to go. If you notice as well, we've got 15 knot crosswind and 5 knot headwind into Dublin, so it's not nice weather. Now, this type of arrival is called a point merge, and if I show you the chart, so we're coming from Vatry, and we're going to make a left-hand turn here, and we're going to follow essentially this point merge arrival. If you notice, flight level 70, flight level 070, flight level 070, flight level 070, and the speed is 220 knots through all of that. This means we'll be held at the same altitude and the same speed throughout this entire arrival, from here all the way to here. The reason being is if it's very heavily trafficked, it stops airlines from going into holding patterns and just keeps them moving in the same direction. It allows you to filter in arrivals quite neatly because you'll have arrivals coming from the north as well. Now what you can do is, if you want to simulate a shortcut, which would usually happen, you will just give yourself a shortcut direct to Oslex, and then you'll just fly a little base leg, which I'll show you what to do. However, if in real life you would wait for air traffic control to tell you to make a shortcut or turn heading or whatever they tell you, so for the time being we'll go with the flow, and then I will simulate that. Or you could just fly the entire arrival. It's entirely up to you when there's no air traffic control, no traffic. Looking at our departure from London, so again, it's going to be a right-hand turn, sharp right-hand turn, no turns below 590 feet, that's off of K, to heading of 281, and we're just going to fly here. So if you notice, 3000 is underneath 6000, that means we must be in between them altitudes. Now usually it'll be straight up to 6000 feet, 6,400 and then 6,000, and because there's a line above and below, that means it's at 6,000. If there's a line just below, it means you've got to be up. So if we get rid of this top line here, that means we've got to be above 6,000. If you get rid of that bottom line, it means we've got to be below 6,000. If there's both, you've got to be at 6,000, and we've got to be at 6,000 until Compton. Again, in real life, you could be given clearance to climb, you know, much earlier, and in this case, you would, because it's such a long departure. You probably would being held at 6,000 feet. Very, very inefficient. But if it's really busy, you know, you would be held, and if it's not busy, you'd be cleared straight up. So that's our charts out the way. So what we'll do here as well is we've got our autopilot panel. We'll just set this up to 6,000, and we need to turn on our flight director. So we'll head over to here, flight director, make sure the flight directors are on both sides. And see how it says 6,000, there should be a white dot, there should be a yellow dot there. If there isn't a yellow dot there, that means we're what called open climb. That means the plane will ignore all restrictions. Whereas if we right click, it shouldn't be any open climb there. We'll just check the progress of our boarding. It just does look like we're making good progress. Let's see what GSX has to say. I'm not sure yet. 90 passengers boarded out of the 220, so we've still got a while to go. Just under halfway. So for the time being, we'll now do our takeoff performance. Now, heading over to here, we're going to head over to takeoff, right? We're going to sync, and it's going to give us all these details, including our takeoff weight. Now, one thing about Heathrow is it's an incredibly big airport. Incredibly big. And we're here, we would have to taxi all the way to here. In real life, you can do what's called an intersection departure. Now, I wouldn't recommend this if you do not have access to charts. I'd recommend you just use the whole runway. And some airports don't allow for intersection departures, especially in the USA. So what we can do is we can grab our intersection chart. So we're going to head over to here, we just press that, and taxi, and airport info / takeoff minimums, which is here. So we're going to find our runway, which is 09 right, which is here. And now we're going to look. So runway head is 3658 meters. So runway head is here. Then if you notice, we'll have November 9. Or November 10, sorry. November 10 is here. And November 10 gives us 3528 meters. And you've got November 8. Again, November 8 is here. November 7 and Sierra 7, if you notice north-south. So November 7, Sierra 7 again. Again, it gives us this much. November 6, which is here, gives us 2325. And you got Sierra 6 as well, which gives us 2244. And November 5, Whiskey, which gives us 1704 meters. Now we're in an A321. We're still lightly loaded, but we still want to use a decent amount of runway. So for me, I'm probably going to use November 7. The longer your flight, the more runway you want to use. Although you should be able to comfortably take off with 3,000 meters with any aircraft, even if it's fully loaded, even 2,800. So you should be able to November 7, especially when using this runway here. So you should be able to take off with from at least here if you are like moderate to heavy loaded. If you're in like a super heavy plane, they're doing an ultra long haul flight, use the whole runway, but you shouldn't have to. So we use November 7. November 7 gives us 2852 meters. So we're just going to head over to here now and type it in. So 2852. I'll just click. Now flaps, you can use config 1 plus F, which is exactly what we're going to do. Air conditioning will be on, anti-ice will be off, force toga will be off, and I'll get to that in a second. We'll just press calculate. Flex 48, V1 41, 145, 148. The max takeoff weight is 90.2 with 77.8, so we're well underneath that. Gross weight 30.0 and trim is 0.3 up. We'll just send that to our FMGS, or McDo as it's supposed to be called. Go to Perth. If you notice it says 141, 145, 148. We'll just confirm that takeoff data. And we've got all that now. All this lovely takeoff data. So I'll go through the takeoff procedure now, as we are still doing our boarding. So this is your throttle, this is your best friend, but you're hardly going to touch it. Now, if you're on Xbox, if you just tap A, I'm using an Xbox controller, it will go straight to climb. Do that before you even move, and just idle your throttle. I've got a shortcut for that, which is B and A for myself, but you have to set it yourself, or you can just reduce the throttle. You can increase it in increments, all the way up to... So practice increments and back down as well. And then you got your reverse as well. And again, idle, reverse, idle. This is your takeoff procedure. You want to increase your thrust to about 50%, right? So about here. It will come up on here as well. It will come up on here, where there will be a blue dot, and it will be around about 50%. Once it's at 50% and it's stable, the engine's not really fluctuating, you want to increase your engine to flex, right? So flex is here. Flex MCT. Do you see it? Flex MCT. So flex MCT will have 2 clicks. And it should stay in there for a second. So it should sound like 1, 2. Now if you press B, if you press A, it shouldn't move again until you press it a few times. What we'll do is we'll climb up to 1500 feet, which will come up here. That's a 0. That'll go up to 1500, 1500. We'll then reduce the thrust in increments down to climb. Again, you should have a little bit of leeway. It will stop at climb for a bit before heading down. You will leave that on climb now until you're landing. That's basically it. That's your auto throttle sorted. I'll just idle it there. Now we're nearly finished boarding. At Heathrow's for nose restrictions at Heathrow, we want to start APU in a second. First of all, have we refueled? We've got to check if we've refueled. Yes, so seatbelts on. Now, these are the fuel pumps, and this is just to show the difference I make. So we're just going to head over wing. I've already set my view up. So we'll head over wing, and now we'll turn on our fuel pumps, and you'll hear the difference in sound. So now, that's the sound of your fuel pumps running. Let's turn up the sound for you. In fact, I'll just turn it down a bit. That's the sound of fuel pumps. And that's wonderful. Just going to make sure that we've got to start our APU. So yeah, the APU start procedure is like this. So APU there, you see what it says APU? You want master switch. We're going to wait until that turns green, which it has. Normally that would be an orange colour. And we're just going to press APU start. Now we're going to monitor this. You don't really need to, Airbus does it for you. In the meantime, we'll just set our transponder code. So to do that on the A321, just want to head down to here. And just press where it says ATC. And give yourself any 4 numbers up to 7. So I'm going to say 2, 3, 5, 1. Usually air traffic control will give you this by saying squawk X, Y, Z. Standby ATC mode should be auto and standby, and we'll just leave it there for now. We'll head outside just to show the APU. You can hear it whirring, and this is the APU door. So this is just an intake where the air comes in, and this is the APU exhaust. So you want to keep your APU off as long as possible because it's very, very loud and it does use fuel. So it's 72, 73. We want to wait until that gets to 100%. Right, that's 100%. Now good to start this clock here. We've got 100% on our APU, so we can turn off our external power.
Welcome on board.
We're going to wait for 3 minutes. 3 minutes we want to wait for. So just enjoy some scenic views of the aircraft.
Good afternoon. Hello. Hello.
So it does look like about 1 minute and 1 minute and 20 at the minute. So we're gonna wait. We want to wait until it gets to 3 minutes. Now,
Good afternoon.
you don't have to, but I'm going to for proper reasons' sake. So boarding should be completed. While we're waiting for it to spool up, I'll just go through our flight plan with you again on Simbrief. So just head over to Simbrief. I'm just going to head over to the PDF. Now, if we scroll down to the bottom of the PDF, or towards near the bottom, you'll have the map of our route, which again, you've got the point merge arrival here.
Welcome on board.
Keep scrolling down, we've got some weather. So this is a cloud. This means it's thunderstorms. So around about flight level 200, there's going to be thunderstorms around about this area. If we head down, it doesn't look like there's any more significant weather. And if we look here, we've got our wind. If you notice, the wind is blowing slightly north. So it's initially coming from the east, and it's then turning north. And that's our wind, and then that's our wind in relation to. Also, we're going to be having a northerly blowing wind. And if we head up to here, it will tell us wind 196 at 50. This and wind composition is P004. This means we've got a tailwind of 4 knots. So basically, no difference is going to be made at all because we've got a very weak tailwind. Anyways, boarding's nearly completed, and our APU has been 3 minutes. So we'll just kill the timer now. So now what we can do is we can come up to here, and we can now press APU bleed. And that's the sound of the APU bleed. And that just means there is now, well, the APU is now providing pressurization. It's now providing what's called bleed air. So a bit of the air from the APU is headed towards the aircraft. And this is really bugging me, so it seems like it only happens around about there. Because I know this is going to come straight up. Knew it. Okay, you know what? We'll leave the shade. We'll toggle the GPU. We don't need a GPU anymore. And that light should now come off green. You can hear the APU bleed. Since we finished boarding, we just want to lock the door. And we will now just set this over here. So this is our weather radar. I'll just switch that over to 1. All weather. Now, we'll leave that as it is now. We're going to turn on, we're going to come up to our lights. And we're going to turn on this beacon light here. So this is the second light. Beacon light, boom. We're going to turn on our cabin lights as well because it's coming a bit dark, so that's why you should never really use mouse to look. We'll just look up. So you see we've got a little bit of a blue light here. And what we'll do now is we'll prepare for pushback. Now again, we're taking off 09. So what we're going to do is we're going to push back facing towards the west. So it's just closing up the doors now.
Locking gear.
Now he's going to start doing his thing. And we'll just go through the lights as well. So you should have a green light here and a red light here. Those are your navigation lights. And at the top of your aircraft here you've got your beacon light, which is flashing red at the minute. It's also at the bottom as well. It's like it's locked. The gears has been locked. So we're going to head into the aircraft. We're going to be facing west. Now you can also use the pushback tool here. Let's push back aft, and then I'd recommend straight pushback, but it's up to you. Release our parking brakes now.
All engines clear.
Now I like to start this timer here. We're now going to start our engines. So the engine start procedure on an Airbus is very simple. It's head over to here, switch this over to ignition start, and now we're going to start engine number 1 first. So we're just going to wait for this to get to about, so it says avail, which it does now. So we'll now switch on engine number 2, which is our right engine.
Set parking brakes. Unlocking gear. Tow truck disconnected. Bypass pin removed. Left is clear. Right is clear.
So that's just the sound of the PTU, which is the power transfer unit. While we're pushed back and we're still waiting to taxi, I'll just bring up our taxi charts at the minute. So here you are. So we're currently here. We're just going to taxi down to November 7. So what we'll do is we'll taxi down, we'll take a left, we'll take our first left and our first right, and we'll taxi all the way down Alpha to November 7 where we'll hold short. That's our taxi briefing done. Engines are both stable now. So what we can do is our after start checklist. So I'll flip this back to norm. We're going to speed brakes and we're just going to arm them by lifting them up. We're going to head up to our APU. We're going to turn off our APU bleed, our APU master switch. We're going to turn on our taxi lights and our runway turn off lights. And we're going to set auto brakes to max. And we're going to set our flaps and our trim. So trim is up 0.3. So flight control. Just open the flight control tab. Up 0.3, so we just want to set that trim to up 0.3. There we are. It should say 0.3 up there. There we go. We're now going to set our flaps 1. There's our flaps set. The flight control tech now. So if you look on here, you should see this little cursor. So full forward, full back, neutral. We'll do full left and full right now. Full left and full right and neutral. We'll do our rudder. Full left and full right. Takeoff config, we'll just check now. Takeoff config is normal, and we'll turn off the flight control. Looks like we're ready to taxi. We'll just check GSX to make sure GSX is telling us we're ready to taxi. We are. Yeah, we'll just release our parking brake now. Now the question is, are we moving? And the answer is yes. And we just need to get rid of you. Moving under our own weight, but it's very slow, so we'll just add a bit of power. And we'll just remove our power. So we don't want to make turns, sharp turns, speeds any greater than 10 knots. And we don't want to taxi any greater than 15 knots in an apron area, so parallel to a terminal. Well, not in an apron. So anywhere near a terminal, we don't want to taxi any greater than 15 knots. However, in this small inside taxiway, we can go up to 30 knots. However, I recommend staying below 25. Just going to give it a bit of power. Just idle it there. So we're going to look for November 7, right? So to look for November 7, you simply just want to read the taxiway. So that's November 5 Echo, which means this one will be November 5 Whiskey, because that's on the west side. So this one's going to be November 5 Whiskey. If you notice, they're in numerical order as well. So the next one will be November 6, which means the one after that will be November 7. Just off centre line here, so we're just going to head back. And you can see it says Alpha, and that's taxiway Foxtrot there. We're on taxiway Alpha, as that's the one with the black on it. The black is Alpha. It's British Airways, right, London Heathrow. That's taxiway Foxtrot. There's our co-pilot. So if you look down to here, you can see where it says GS and 20. That's our ground speed. We're just at a nice 20 knots. I think this is November 7, November 6. November 6, yep. So we're going to take the next left, November 7. Now I also want this to be known that if you've planned for November 7, you can take the full length. It just means that you've got performance for November 7. So if you've planned for, so it's always best to have performance numbers for the intersection in case you can be given it, in case you are given it. But it could be a case of air traffic control say we request you to use full length, which in that case you use full length, but you still got the power for, you still got the takeoff performance for November 7, which is here. So we're just going to brake. I'm just going to reduce our speed to 10 knots. There we are, 10 knots, that's about right. It says runway ahead, we'll just make that turn here. And we'll just stop around about here. We'll do what's called holding short. Firing the way, yes. So what we'll do now is we'll pretend we're giving clearance. So what we'll do is we'll do this performance. We'll do this. Strobe lights. So strobe lights on. Landing lights, both of them on. Taxi light, leave that at taxi. We'll just miss our parking brake. Head over to our TCAS. So we're going to just switch this over to this top right and set that to TARA. Add some power so we can get out of the way. We're now going to start our timers, so we're going to start this clock here and this clock here. I like to set the two timers. You can do it however you want. Some people set only that clock there. We don't need to follow the yellow line for the runway alignment, as long as you're aligned on the runway. We've had a bit too much brake there, but that's okay, as long as we're lined up. So we're lined up now, so we're just going to hold our brakes. TCAS is still on standby. We'll turn on out reporting as well. There we go. We needed to turn on that. We'll head upstairs now. We'll just switch this over to takeoff, which is our nose light. So remember the takeoff procedure. So we're going to release our parking brakes, add power until that blue dot gets to about 5. And we're going to go straight to flex. Right, we'll come up here, man flex, 48 SRS runway blue, add slight forward pressure onto the nose, and just use your rudder to maintain centre line. Have a bit of wind coming from a bit of left. We're going to use a bit of left rudder, so we're going to move the aileron to the right. 100 knots, we're going to release our forward pressure, we're going to use left rudder to maintain centre line. There's the V1, and rotate. Nice and gently on the stick. Want to pitch up to about 20 degrees. Positive rate, gear up. So we're just gonna. Now you can turn on autopilot from here. I'm not going to. I'm gonna hand fly, at least until 3000. Just going to follow the flight director by keeping the dot on the cross. That's what you want to look for, the dot on the cross. You want to keep the dot on the cross. There's 1500, so we're just going to reduce to climb power. Now, because we're that light and the runway is that long, that we can use climb power. The climb power is the same as our takeoff power. It's going to wait until 3,000 feet. Now, the Airbuses do trim themselves, so we don't have to worry about, you know, trimming the aircraft. It will trim itself. And we're going to come past that S speed, which we are. Yep, there's slats up. That's our flaps up now as well. And you can feel a bit of turbulence just kind of pushing the aircraft. It's okay, as long as we just keep the aircraft flying, it will fly itself. 3,000 feet, autopilot 1 on. And as we're coming towards 6,000 feet, which is our transition altitude, we're just going to set this over to our standard. That's just me taking a screenshot. There's 5,000 feet, 1,000 to go. Now, I've set standard because in the UK, transition altitude is 6,000 feet, which means this is the level that we use a same flight. It's when we say flight level instead of altitude. So rather than saying we're at 6,000 feet, we're at flight level 060. So we should level off here. And if I just bring up the charts, let me just show you where we are. Here, so we're just flying on this SID here. Notice how as well, this is not what's called an, this is not an RNAV SID. So this means that we don't have to be exactly on the correct path. As long as we're just following this. So this is not an RNAV SID, whereas our rival is an RNAV. But more on that later. So we've got to fly all the way to Compton now at 6,000 feet. Is that long and tedious? Yes. So while you're at 6,000 feet, do your after takeoff checklist. So ground spoilers, disarm. You see flaps are up. Make sure your weather radar's on. Switch that up to flight plan. Upstairs, we want to just we don't need our nose light because we've got our gear up. Turn off is up to you. I'm going to turn my turn off off. Landing lights can stay on until we're at 10,000 feet, and we'll request further climb in a second. So we'll pretend to request further climb. So if you just bear with. So Shamrock 15 Tango requesting further climb. Shamrock 15 is it 15 Tango? Yeah, Shamrock 16 Tango request further climb. Shamrock 16 Tango clear to climb to flight level 160. Flight level 160. Shamrock 16 Tango. So that's what you do. And now you go to open climb. So we just switch it over to the middle mouse button. Open climb. It will ignore all the restrictions. So usually you can request further climb, or air traffic control will just tell you to climb. So we'll climb up to 160. While we're doing that, we're just going to head over to here. So in it does tell us that our flight level is 340, and our progress page will tell us your cruise level, which is here, your optimum flight level, and your recommended max. Optimum is the flight level with its like best fuel burn. Max is don't go above that altitude. You won't be able to like fly. And cruise is your cruise. You can cruise at your optimum level. However, on a short route like this, you just want to cruise at whatever's best, because we're going to be cruising for 10 minutes at 340, and the optimum fuel burn is, can you stay at that cruise for 20 minutes? If the answer is no, then it's not optimum. We can also switch this back over to our climb now as well. We can switch this over back to manage climb because it will just it will follow the it will be above the restriction. So past 10,000 feet now, the airplane will pitch down to increase its speed. We'll turn off our landing lights and we'll turn off our seatbelts. You should hear a little ding there. And it's just going to increase speed now to just about there. That is automatically calculated by your McDo. You can also manually select the speed as well. More on that later. And we're now going to climb up to flight level 160. And as we approach Compton. So we're just going to zoom out as well. You can see it's at the minute. If you zoom out, you can see our entire route there. So it's not a long route. I'm just going to make a right-hand turn at just before we get to Compton. As we get to Compton, sorry. So as we get to this speed as well, we will pitch up again. This is our optimum climb speed based on our current rate and our thrust settings, which will get us there, which will get us to our flight level at an optimum rate based off our cost index. So flying an Airbus now is a lot of it is this, like you've basically, the plane flies itself now. I'm going to take over. Shamrock 16 Tango, climb and maintain flight level 340, climb and maintain flight level 340, Shamrock 16 Tango, 340, boom. So even though it says 34,000 feet, because we're above our transition altitude, it does say flight level 340. However, if we're below our flight level, if we're below transition altitude, it's altitude. So that way, every airplane in the area, in the vicinity, uses a synced up altimeter, which is 29902. So that way, they're all kind of like on a similar altitude. If we zoom out here, so we can see we're just going to make another left-hand turn. So we're now past the SID as well, so if you have a look on our chart, so we're now past the SID, and based on where we are right now, we're roughly here, headed towards Didza. Now if it's really not that busy, you could get what's called a direct to, so air traffic control could be nice and be like proceed direct to Lemgu or Vatry. We're in London, that's not going to happen, not yet. So we'll just fly the route. That blue line there is where we'll reach our top of climb. If you head down to your FMC, your McDo, head down to your flight plan page, and if you scroll up, it'll tell you T/C, that's top of climb, and it tells you your time, which is 3:57. So we should be at our top of climb in roughly 7 minutes. Once we reach our top of climb, we'll be at that for a further 10 minutes, 58 now. So a further 10 minutes to our top of descent, where we will then be descending, and then we should be on the ground at 4:32. Local time is 5:50, so 42 minutes until we are at Dublin. So while we're climbing, I'm going to leave you with some nice views, and then I'll be back once we reach our top of climb. Alright, I'm back everyone, and it's like we're approaching some nice cloud. Yeah, our top of climb, and considering we just took off, we're going to be planning for our descent quite soon. It's currently on the map. We are just flying over the north of Wales, well, just the south of Wales. And then we'll make a right hand turn very soon once we get to the southwest. Yeah. Anyways, there's our altitude, 34,000 feet. And our weather radar is just having a bit of a mare. Let's just make sure. No, elevation. We'll just leave it as it is. Right, 34,000 feet. We now need to plan for our top of descent. How do we do that? Well, we're gonna pick a waypoint, any waypoint, so we're gonna use Craggy and fix info. Now we're heading into Dublin, so Echo India Delta Whiskey. Our runway is 10 left, and we're gonna put that in there. We're at an altitude of 34,000 feet, so 34 divide that by 1,000. 34,000 divided by 1,000, so that's 34. What we're gonna do is we're gonna do 34 times 3. Yeah, 34 times 3. That will give us, so that's obviously 90 at 12, which gives us roughly 102. So we're going to put 102, we're going to put that into radius. That should set us a circle right about here. You see that blue dotted line? That's basically our top of descent kind of rage ring. We're going to put the same thing in here. So yeah, DW 10 left. However, this time this is for our configuration. So now radius 10 miles. Last one. A radius of just 4 miles. So it's 10 and 4, right? That's the radius that you'd want. So at 10 miles out, we want to be at 180 knots or less. At 4 miles out, we want to be fully configured for landing. So we want to drop our gear and we want to be at flaps full, which is going to be our landing flap today. We're going to head down to our Perth. Going to go to next phase twice, and we're going to put in our approach details. Now if we head over to Navigraph, and you can use flights Dublin, just make sure that's weather. Yep. So we're at minimum VFR, so the winds are 170 at 14, 170 at 14. So 170 at 14. And our temperature is 13 degrees. Our QNH is 1011, and if you are using inches of mercury, it's 2985. We're going to use 1011. Wonderful. And now we need to do our minimums. Our visibility is 9999, and our ceiling is 1800 feet. So we're going to use the regular ILS. If visibility was lower, we'd use Cat 1, Cat 2, or even, so we'd use Cat 2 or even Cat 3, which would be this chart here. And we're going to be going at Cat C, because that's our aircraft type. So that means we're going to have 505 feet. That's our altitude. So 505. We're going to put that into Barrow. And lastly, we're going to check our transition altitude, which over here is 5,000 feet. So transition altitude is 5,000 feet. That's set, and we're going to use flaps full. Our approach speed will be 137 knots. That's okay. And now we just want to make sure the radio should automatically tune. The ILS should automatically tune, but just for good measure, we want to make sure. So 10955, 10955, 097, 097. That's beautiful. Everything's all tuned up, and we are ready to begin our top of descent, which should be in the next few minutes. So I'll do a quick captain's PA for everyone, and then yeah. So if you do want to simulate a PA, you just head down to here, He's pressed PA. Ah, it doesn't want to work. Okay. Don't know why, but usually you'd press PA and you'd be like, ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Just let you know we are roughly just approaching the southwest corner of Wales at 34,000 feet. Ground speed is just around about 440 knots. Does have a wind heading towards the north. We're beginning our descent soon into Dublin. Weather in Dublin is not so good. It does look like we have a bit of wind. It should be a bit of a bumpy approach. We should aim to have you on the ground in roughly 28 minutes. For the time being, sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight. Once you do that, you switch back over to VHF1 and then you chill. We'll set auto brakes low, just due to the long nature of the runway. We've got a pretty long runway. And our weather radar's still tweaking. Just enjoy some views. So our aircraft is an A321 long range. My controller is messing up. I will be right back. So I'm back after a bit of controller and jiggery. Yeah, the Microsoft Flight Simulator did that glitch where it didn't recognise the controller. So I just had to quickly sort things out, but it does look like we're back. So yeah, we're beginning our descent very soon. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set Sierra says flight level 240, and if you just head to our chart very quickly, let's make sure our chart's open. If you just look at where battery is, it has 240 and there's a line above it, which means we've got to be below 240. So I'm going to set this over to 240 now. We will be beginning our descent very shortly. We can really begin our descent from 5 miles before the top of descent marker. At the minute, we've still got another 15 miles till top of descent. I like to descend around 5 miles before it, just so I don't get above profile. So our initial stop altitude will be 240 once we pass battery. And next restriction is 70, flight level 70. Okay, we'll begin our top of descent now. Yep, so we'll begin our descent. So we're just gonna right click. I should start descending. See that green light, green dot? We want to. So you notice how the green dot's now rising. That just means that we are now above our we're now below our profile. That essentially just means we're too low. But to compensate, it's going to descend at 1,000 feet per minute. The plane's going to descend at 1,000 feet per minute until our profile kind of catches up to us. Which, there you go, you can see now the profile's catching back up to us. So now the plane's going to slowly start to descend a lot quicker. Idle in the thrust, it says throttle idle. We're going to now descend at idle thrust. That was just a bit of a thumbnail capture that. So we're just sending down to 240. So just at the minute, so we are on profile, and that's our speed window. So our airplane, if it needs to get back on profile, it will speed up to this yellow line. I mean this purple line, sorry, magenta. And it will also reduce its speed down to this magenta line if necessary. So if we're too low, we'll just reduce our speed. If we're too high, we'll increase our speed so we can descend quicker. So we need to be at flight level 240 by Vatry, below 240 by Vatry, which at the minute we are making that restriction. Well, at the minute we're above, low profile, so we can still make that restriction. Once we get to about 5 miles to Vatry, we'll descend down to 7,000, well, flight level 70. So we're heading into cloud as well, but we should be okay. Well, I say 1,000 feet above as well is another good marker. So what we'll do, we'll descend down now to 70. So we'll descend initially down to flight level 140. We'll just right click that. So that's now going to update. So as long as we get below Vatry, we're okay. So notice how now it's increasing its speed, so we can just meet that restriction, which it looks like we will. It's getting into cloud, but the cloud's not too dense, so we're just going to monitor, but we're not going to take any action for the time being. If the clouds suddenly look incredibly dense, just means we need to turn on our anti-ice just due to the outside air temperature. See where it says TAT? If that is below 10 degrees, which is -10, we need to turn our ITS on if we do enter any heavy cloud. Like this. Since you look like we're out of that dense cloud, we're just going to turn our anti-ice back off. I'm going to turn my weather radar off. Yeah, we'll turn on our path. We'll turn on this one. So again, VNav has now picked up its speed now, so we're now travelling a bit faster. gonna look where we are on our EFB. Just flying through this not so nice weather. It is a bit stormy. There's Dublin, our destination now. We should be able to land into Dublin. However, in the event that we do need to go around, we do need to divert. We will potentially brief our alternate. Should have probably done this on the ground. But it does look okay. We'll just send ourselves down to flight level 070 now. I'm just going to quickly do our we'll do our second route. We'll do our secondary route. So our secondary flight plan, which is in the event we need to divert. So EIDW to and we'll just grab this from there. If you notice, I said controller disconnect. Yeah, I tried to find a fix for it. Gonna head over to our alternate flight plan, which is here. So flight level 070. We're gonna go cost index 0 at this point as well. Oh, we'll leave the cost index. Dublin departure, wrong one, which is the Nevry to Quebec. Insert from Nevry, November 34 to Balzu. Where is November 34? Insert arrival, ILS 17, no star, no transition, approaching via Belfast 1. Insert. So that's in the event that for some reason we are unable to make our destination, but we should be okay. We're at 14,000 feet now, so landing lights can come on, seatbelt signs can come on. So once we get to about 10,000 feet, we'll reduce our speed to 250 or below. If we just head through our plan as well, you can just see our arrival into Dublin. So we're just going to fly like that. However, what we'll likely do is we'll likely give ourselves a shortcut. It's really weather dependent. We're still a bit wild out. We're still roughly 24 minutes away. However, if Dublin's not busy, I will fly the approach manually. So, you know, I'll check on flight radar. Let's see how busy Dublin is. Wait a minute. So, because I just searched Dublin, it doesn't look like there's many aircraft coming in to land. We'll see where this one's come from. So yeah, looks like this one was just given straight in. So we'll give ourselves the same. At the moment, Dublin's pretty empty, so We'll probably go from Babon direct to Oslex. So now, if you notice, we're getting above profile. However, we don't need to add any speed brake. It does look like we're doing good for speed. If our speed is struggling to bleed off before 10,000 feet, which it is now, actually, I'm going to add some speed brake on. It's only 50%. Just to get ourselves back on profile. This is what speed brake looks like. We should be below 250, or at or below, but you know, struggling to make that restriction, so we're just going to help the airplane. Now we're heading into cloud now, and that is dense cloud, so engine anti-ice can come on. Actually, no, we're 10 degrees. Actually, yeah, we don't need anti-ice. So we're above 10 degrees. At or above 10 degrees. I'm actually going to manually reduce my speed. So to do that, you're just going to right click in with your mouse wheel or open up the window, and we'll just reduce our speed to 220 already. Now if you notice, there's the green, you see that green circle? We're below that green circle, so we need to actually add some flaps. So to do that, once we get below these two lines, which here it'll tell you VFE, flaps 1 is 238, so we don't want to extend our flaps below 238. So now we're below 238, we're going to add one notch of slats. That's pretty cool, actually. So now we're in cloud. You can tell we're in cloud because look at the strobe lights. That's dense cloud. The strobe lights are scattering. The light rays are scattering, which actually happens in real life as well. And now we've still technically got 50 miles to go, which is a very long time. So I'm now just going to give us a direct from Babon all the way to Osmex. So you could just you could go to direct to Oslex, and we'll just wait until we fully straightened out. We'll go to flight plan, wait until we get to Babon, until we make that right on turn at Babon. I'm just going to set this down to 5,000 feet as well. And 5,000 feet, not flight level 050. Which means you need to set our QNH to 1011. Right, we'll begin that now, so we'll insert that. Now we're going to descend, we're going to right click that in. We're still above profile. And we're just going to turn on LS, we're going to right click you in, and we're going to set you to 1011. And now we're going to descend to Oslex. the aircraft will descend to maintain, will meet the restriction, and we're going to maintain 220 knots until, well, this restriction here, which actually gives us 220 knots, that's super off anyways. Notice every time on LS, we've got this purple diamond here, and this purple diamond here. So this diamond, we want to keep this in the middle here, when we are on our final approach, and this one we're going to keep in the middle here, so that's our ILS, essentially. Temperature is all good, so we don't need to worry about that. We're going to turn on runway. I'm going to turn on my runway turn off lights now, and I'm going to also see if I've just pressed something. I don't know what, if I pressed U instead of A. So if you notice, the cabin lights are now coming brighter because we are it's getting darker. No, starting to get light cabin lights. So we'll dim them as soon as we are on final. It says 5,000 feet, so we're just going to set this down to 4,000 feet now. And we'll just right click that in. Oh, no, you're supposed to stay on the restriction. Yeah, so if you notice as well, I'm still flying, even though the airplane's flying the plane, I'm flying the plane, I'm the one doing all the heavy lifting. Right, there goes 4,000 feet, so we're going to wait until we pass Oslex. When we say pass Oslex, I mean this has completely changed from Oslex to Suboff. So I'm going to wait for that to change. Which... no, so we'll now descend down to 4,000 feet. And it will just maintain, it will just wait for the green dot to line up, and then we'll begin our descent into final approach. And then maintain idle thrust. I'm also going to head over to our FM McDo, press perf, press activate approach phase, confirm that. So now when we do our final approach, the aircraft will do everything for us essentially. I'm going to set our altitude down to 3,000 feet. Should level off here. I'm also going to just dim the PFD a bit as well, just so we can see the flight director a bit clearer because it's getting dark now. We're also going to dim our cabin lights as well, just due to the time and due to our location, our proximity to the airport. As you're approaching 3,000 feet now, I'm also going to press localizer, so we're going to press lock. Localizer now will capture, which it has now, so you see it says localizer captured. I'm sure the airplane did not follow the restriction properly. We'll reduce our speed down to 200 knots, and we're going to get below the speed. We're going to add some flaps to reduce speed down to 180. So we're going flaps 2 at the minute, and that's where we are. Take a little screenshot of that actually. As we are now fully established on the localizer, we're going to press approach, and now when that gets we'll begin our final approach. I'm going to head onto the charts one last time to go to the ILS chart. Now climb straight ahead, turn left, and so basically climb straight ahead to Delta Whiskey 906, turn left to Delta Whiskey 907, and at 9 Delta Whiskey 908 at or below 3,000, max 200 knots, then proceed at or above 4,000 feet to BATAF to initiate another approach as directed. So we're going to set our go around altitude to 4,000 feet. Now fully established, we've now fully caught the glide slope. As you can see, our aircraft is descending. We'll turn off our weather radar. arm spoilers, so to do that just lift it up. Those will deploy as soon as we hit the ground. Predictive wind shear off.
2,500.
In fact, yeah, we'll turn off the weather display, we'll just turn that on. There we go. So we're gonna wait until and it's done that thing again. If you just bear with me, I'll be right back. Yeah, we'll be right back. Alright, it does look like we fixed it. So at 4 miles we're gonna drop our gear. So around this ring we're gonna drop our gear. And we're gonna go to flaps 3. So we're at 180. It's just speed wants to bleed away. We're okay. You see we have a very strong gust. We have a very strong crosswind at the minute. If you notice our reference point, which is here, which is actually here, so that's roughly how much gust we've got. So we're going to just drop our gear now, and we're going to just switch this over to the aircraft will now do the speed for us, and flaps full. The aircraft will now manage the speed for us. We're going to set this
1,000.
Nose lights are on, so everything is all set. The cabin, they will check it themselves. We're 1,000 feet above the ground. We've got a very strong crosswind. The aircraft will find its feet, do not worry. 500 feet, I'm going to disengage the autopilot. Let me just drop my PFD now. Just dim it a bit more so I can see the flight director a bit clearer. Oh. And we'll just head over here. Make sure you press this red button here to disconnect the autopilot. Now I'm completely hand flying.
400.
It's very gusty. Yeah, that's okay. Oof.
300.
Very gusty indeed. Just keep it descending.
Minimum.
Yeah, continue. That's
200.
fine.
Sync rate.
100.
Oh, sync rate checked.
50. 40. 30. 20. Retards 10. Retard 5. Retard. Retard. Retard.
There we go. And we'll just full reverse. And wait until 60 knots, which we are. Cancel our reversers, switch this to idle thrust, and we'll just attach our brakes. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dublin. Local time is 4:37. We're going to take this exit here as we can because we're below 60 knots. High speed taxiways, high speed exits like this you can take at or above 60 knots. There we go. We'll take a right at this taxiway here. Get some thrust in so we can get moving. So now we're Aer Lingus. So we are flying as Aer Lingus into Dublin, so that means we're at Terminal 2. So we'll show you. We'll get taxi charts up in a second. Right, anyways, we're off the runway now. So we're going to turn off our landing lights, turn off our taxi lights. Oh, nose lights to taxi, strobe lights off, and our transponder to stand by. Speed brakes retracted and flaps all the way up. That should be full times. What we'll do now is we'll just open up our chart. Airports. We're going to taxi down to. We're going to taxi down to this terminal. So we're going to take this taxiway here, and yeah, we'll taxi down to that little circle part there. It takes right here, so we're just going to brake, get below 10 knots. I'm going to increase my power until we get to about 20 knots, and then we'll just kind of coast under our own weight. So yeah, that's about right. We're just gonna dim the displays as well, because at the minute you can't even see anything. Again, just because we're just going to drop our speed again here, so we just want to make this turn nice and gentle. Decide what gate I want to use, so I'm just going to let the aircraft taxi for a minute, and there we go. Let's open you up, close you. Oh, I don't know what's going on here. Okay, we'll just, okay, I don't know what's going on with my anyways, we'll head down to Dublin. I want gate we'll take gate 316. We'll take 316. Just gonna open you up. Gate. See if it's on parking. Nope. Okay, we'll just taxi to it ourselves then. Anyways, because we're near the gate, we're going to turn on our APU master switch. And our APU start switch. Turn off our runway turn off lights as well, because we're near a gate. And there's gate 316. Speed is 8 knots. Just got the airplane in. We'll turn off our taxi light now. We don't need our bleeds on. We just want to make sure that our APU is on. So we've stopped our airplane here. Parking brake is set, and yep, that looks all good to go. So we can shut down the engines now. So engines shut down. We'll shut down both our engines. We'll stop both our timers. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dublin. Cabin crew, disarm slides. Does manual cross-check report. Wonderful. We'll turn off our seatbelt sign. This is how we shut down the aircraft now. Engine N1 is below 6% each of them. So we can turn off our beacon light now. What we can do is we can go to GSX. I'm going to dim my toy. So we're going to, no jetways, so we're going to operate stairs. We're going to use Aer Lingus because not a chance we're going to use Ryanair. Although at one stage Ryanair did actually own Aer Lingus, but now they're owned by the International Airways Group. And we're going to toggle our GPU, and we're going to switch over to external power. We'll turn off our APU, and we should have stairs coming up. So yeah, I'll just drop my ND brightness. So 55 minutes and 14. I'll check the official Volanta stats in a second. We had 53 minutes was our flight time. Block time of 1 hour 12. Landing rate was 200 feet per minute. I'm looking at Volanta at the minute. So yeah, 56 minutes was our scheduled air time. We landed at 53 minutes. And yeah, so does it look all good? So now what we're going to do is just going to request deboarding. And
the boarding passengers bus is coming.
I need a GSX profile. So yeah, well, thank you all for watching, and we do hope to see you again
Passengers,
very
the
soon.
boarding starting.